Thanks again for listening to the Clive Barker Podcast. This is episode 122, recorded August 10th, 2016. In this episode, Jose and me, Ryan, are joined once again by Pyramid Gallery's Max Lichtor for the Clive Barker news, the end of round 4 of the Duels of Blood, which can be found over at www.duelsofblood.com, and we talk about another treatment for a Hellraiser reboot. This one is from 2010. Also, what's the new controversy around Hellraiser Judgement? Stick around. This is episode 122, Cramming Hitler's Heart in a Toddler. This episode is sponsored by Jordy Calendar. Jordy is a customizable calendar and organizer with icons, themes, and wallpapers, and settings to make your calendar look the way you want it. It's available on iPhone or iPad, and it can sync with the default iOS calendar, so you don't need to re-enter your calendar appointments. If you don't have an iPhone, that's okay too. It's also available on Android. If you use Google Calendar, Jordy can sync with your Google Calendar events. It also offers their own cloud service called Jordy Cloud, and so you can keep them synced up even if you have more than one device, like a smartphone or a tablet. Jordy also has event calendars where you can follow calendars of events of a variety of topics like sports, or if you're into horror, which there's a good chance that you are, if you're one of our listeners, you can follow news from shock till you drop. You can also add weather forecasts and all kinds of cool stuff. So there are many other event calendars available. To add them, you just tap on the calendar icon in the lower left toolbar in Jordy and tap on the Add Event Calendar, and then browse and search the directory and add any calendar you're interested in. So we'd love for you to give Jordy a try. Search it now on the App Store or Google Play. It's spelled Jorte. We would prefer it if you use the custom link, http://bit.ly/pinheadcalendar, all one word. So bit.ly/pinheadcalendar, and that way they'll know that you heard about it from the Clive Barker Podcast. So download it, it's free, give it a try, and we do thank Jordy for their support. I guess to get started, we'll go right into the news. There's the Wonder Common art exhibit that's hosted by Chris Velasco. People may know Chris Velasco as the composer for Clive Barker's Jericho, the game.
And he also composed a lot of computer game music. He's done stuff for Mass Effect and God of War 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes.
That's
awesome.
He's
been busy.
So it's neat to see that he not only worked with Clive Barker, but he obviously must be a fan of his art as well. Mm-hmm. So that is in Santa Monica, California, August 6th, so it's already started through the 27th.
That's right. We're going to have plenty
if you're listening to this way in the future.
Yeah, it's going to be in the Copro Gallery, and I am not sure how many paintings are going to be there. But if you go to the Copro Gallery's website, which is www.copronason.com, you'll be able to see a gallery with a bunch of those pictures. And at least 21 pictures are there that you can look at and slideshow through them. So that's always cool. And I believe that the Beautiful Moment, which is the painting with the Aberrat Archipelago, is also going to be present at Wonder Common.
And they did one of those cool panoramic video things on Facebook where you hold the phone up and then you can turn your body around and look in a 360-degree arc at the different paintings.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That was really nice.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. I always wondered how that stuff works. But
Wonder Common means in German Cabinet of Curiosities, and this is going to be a solo exhibition by Clive Barker, but at the same time there's going to be also a group exhibit parallel to this one called From the Depths, which will have artwork inspired by H.P. Lovecraft, and it's a collection of art curated by composer Chris Velasco. So there'll be paintings paying homage to H.P. Lovecraft.
Ah, okay.
Nice pair-up.
That's always fantastic.
So, speaking of people who work with Clive Barker, Tate Steinsick. So, we may remember that he did some concept art for Michael Plumity's conception of the Nightbreed television show. So, he has done a mask of Jimothy Terry from Aberrat.
It looks very beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, really, really well done. I think it's a big step above those Halloween masks that came out maybe 4 years back.
Oh yeah, I remember
in quality, those. I mean, they were really neat, but they were not. I think the quality on this is higher, and the price, obviously. I think those were like $30 or something. Those old ones.
This is always a prototype. Prototypes always have a little more detail than the finished product. But yeah, he's very talented. He was in Face Off, if you can recall. There was also unfortunately not in his season, but there was a Face Off episode with Mark Miller where they made characters based on that would fit into the Clive Barker universe. So that was interesting to watch. But yeah, Tate also did, apart from that concept art for the Nightbreed TV show, he also worked on a sculpture as kind of a tribute to Clive Barker, where we had several different characters mixed in together, and then one of the sides was like Clive Barker's face. And then on the other, you could see like Peliquin and Pinhead, and it was a mishmash of stuff. I think we posted about it on Occupy Midian years ago, and if I can dig it up, we'll add it to the show notes.
It's a really nice choice that he, does an Aberrat mask. It wouldn't be something that I would think would be the first go-to for a lot of artists.
Yeah, especially because it's so creative in terms of all the characters that he's come up with over the years and all his hundreds of paintings about the Aberrat. So yeah, very, very nice stuff. Go check our blog. We posted about it, and we also shared on the Facebook page some pictures of the progression of the mask from a lump of clay to this finally beautiful sculpt painted by Tate Steinsick.
This is produced to sell as far as an actual mask that you can purchase?
Well, no official date has been given on when the mask will be released, but probably in the next coming months there will be more news.
Cool.
Oh, next up, Clive Barker actually created a little Facebook video, which is basically audio, but thanking his fans for coming to. What was the
Midsummer Scream?
Yes, Midsummer Scream convention, where there was the real Clive Barker store set up there for people to buy stuff, which was pretty cool, and so we'll play that here into the podcast so you can hear it.
Hello, everybody. This is Clive Barker on Sunday morning. Just wanting to thank everybody who's been attending the con. I wish I could have been with you yesterday and today. It would have been the best fun, but I've been a little sick of late, and I'm just recuperating. So please, my best wishes to you all, and my thanks for supporting everything at the con, and obviously coming to our booth and making it such a wonderful success. My love to you all, and I will see you soon, I hope.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to see him at some future conventions, if not at least in Los Angeles, but maybe elsewhere as well. That'd be great.
Yeah.
God willing, that would be a wonderful thing to see Clive Barker get back into public appearances, if health permits.
Yeah. Well, and the output of his sort of ancillary projects, or the ones that he's not writing directly, has been really high. Or so like if you look at going into the Imaginer books, there's we just got book 3 of the Imaginer, and now book 2 of the Imaginer, and now they're already shipping book 3. And in fact,
right.
I think Ben Warren, already shared pictures of his copy that he got in the mail.
That's true.
Yeah,
Rob made an awesome post about it. Yeah.
So that's awesome. I still need to pre-order that, or not pre-order. I guess I just order. I need to order one.
The second volume of the Imaginer was written and published along with Thomas Nagovin of the Century Guild Gallery, but the third one and the fourth one are being made by the Clive Barker Archive, which is run by Phil and Sarah from Revelations. So they're doing a great job.
Oh, Clive Barker did a Q&A, or you submit your questions via email, and then those had to be all turned in by August 8th So
this Monday.
Yeah, so sometime soon, I think we can hear his response to those questions. And we did a blog post about that, so anybody that, hopefully everybody got a chance to get their questions in, and they're not all like, where's the sequel to Cujo?
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because there's 2 videos with Clive Barker talking to his fans on his Facebook page, so I'm wondering about this Q&A, if they're going to do the same with Clive talking or if it's just going to be a written reply. But I guess we'll find out pretty soon.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to find out. And, so this is our last thing, and this isn't exactly news. This is more of an opinion piece. But Sean Decker from Dread Central made an editorial post that says, ingrate fanboys need to let go territorialism. Hellraiser Judgement might be awesome.
Oh boy.
So
yeah. He opens up this article bringing up stuff like Ghostbusters and toxic fandom and misogyny and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. All of his posts, all of his examples were of misogyny, which is doesn't really have anything to do with the problems that people are having with Hellraiser.
Right, I agree. I mean, look at the first movie and the second movie. And the third movie, the lead is a female, and so nobody's complaining about the fact that, in fact, some of our treatments that we've discussed over these last few episodes with the Duels of Blood have had female leads. In fact, the previous one had a female lead. This one's going to have a female lead. So I think what's going on here is just that as Hellraiser fans, we've been burned so many times with bad sequels that it's not a question of thinking that we own the franchise. At least in my case, is I think the franchise is owned by the wrong people, if you know what I'm talking about.
Well, and going back to what you were saying about the female lead, if you think about Hellraiser Revelations, was there even a lead character at all in that movie? I don't think so.
The bad guy, the guy who pretended to be his friend, I guess, the guy who kept the family hostage while he opened up the box. Yeah. I guess that was the lead, the villain at least.
But there's a long period of time where he's not in the movie at all. Not long, but there's a big chunk of it where he's not. I don't know.
Yeah, none of the characters really stood out that much.
Yeah,
I agree.
Well, isn't the main thing that what's going on is that the fans are reacting to the fact that Doug Bradley is not being used in the film? I mean, isn't that the...
Yeah, which is, I think misogyny is a poor... Misogyny is a poor analog, I guess, to that, because there is a huge group of people that hate the fact that Doug Bradley's not in it, and it's like I'm kind of glad for him that he's not. I mean, we don't know that this is going to be a terrible movie, but if it is, I think he's better off.
Well, there was a video with an interview with Doug Bradley recently at a horror con, and I'm just trying to figure out if I remember.
It was the London, the Horror Con UK, I think, was the convention that was interviewed at.
Yes, you're right. It was Doug Bradley at the Horror Con 2016, and so in it, he addressed in a couple of minutes this whole thing about Judgment and why he's not in it, and it had to do mostly with the way that he was treated and the non-disclosure agreement that Gary Tunnicliffe had sent him. And we've been over this a few times already, so it's okay. But I guess that it's just weird that Gary T is trying to get people to be interested in this movie by saying stuff like, Bob Weinstein called me and it said that this movie was like a mixture of Cronenberg and Fellini, and and I just find it really hard to believe that there's any truth to that, because I just don't. I mean, I've seen Revelations, and we've had progressively worse sequels throughout the Hellraiser series, and it's like, I don't think it's unreasonable for the fans to have to put their foot back a little bit and be like, I don't know about this one. I guess it's probably going to be crappy like the others, but it's not like I said, not so much a matter of territorialism. It's more like a matter of there's so much potential in the franchise for Hellraiser. They could have done so much more over the years, and it just seems like the last couple of sequels, at least, it's just, okay, time to make another contractually obligated sequel just to hold on to the rights of Hellraiser, because the Weinstein Company lost the Halloween franchise, and they don't want that to happen to Hellraiser.
Yeah.
So until that promised Hellraiser reboot in the theaters that's going to have a big budget happens, I guess we're kind of stuck with these low-budget sequels, right?
Well, yeah, and since they're doing these every 5 years, it doesn't seem like that much time is going by, but that's a lot of time. So that means that they've been talking about this remake for 10 years.
Wow. Yeah, almost 10 years. It started in 2008, I think, this whole conversation about rebooting it. And it's been on the shelf. Every couple of years, someone mentions it, and it's like, oh, we're still working on the Hellraiser remake. And, luckily
my feeling is that they would have started by now if they were going to do it.
I know.
Yeah, if they're going to seriously do it, they definitely would have started by now. But
and this, why would this movie get in the way, right? I mean, they would just start it anyway, because it's not like this is just to fulfill a contractual obligation. So if they were going to do it, they could work on them at the same time.
Who knows?
Well, Gary's a big fan. He worked close with Doug for all those years. I would hope that, he's learned a lesson from the last film and the flack that he got for that. And maybe let's let the music do the talking when it comes out. Maybe we'll be surprised, but I think it's unfair to not value what fans have seen over the past decade of films that's come out.
Yeah,
and it's really interesting the idea of these films being made just to retain the rights. I think that's really important to get that out there, because that's kind of I don't know, that just kind of exposes the traits of movie makers.
Yeah, you can have a good movie on a low budget, so it's not impossible.
Yeah.
So I think the low budget by itself isn't an indicator that it's a bad movie. Or not fighting to keep Doug Bradley in it maybe isn't necessarily an indicator that it's a bad movie,
right?
Or that the guy who made a bad movie, who wrote a bad movie last time, maybe doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad movie. But you could put all those three things together, and I think, like you said, that fans have a right to feel pretty leery about it.
Sure.
Well, for example, he says that fans shouldn't judge a movie sight unseen. He has a point. I mean, I'm not going to say he doesn't have a point there, because, but we have seen some stuff so far about the movie. We've seen some pictures. We've seen a picture of Pinhead. We've seen a picture of the Auditor, and we've seen the failed Kickstarter for Judgment before it was a Hellraiser movie, which Gary T keeps saying that no, it doesn't have anything to do with this. But when you look at the Kickstarter for Judgment, the characters seem to repeat themselves into this Hellraiser movie. So he decided ultimately that he's not going to show anything else until the movie comes out in 2017, because he doesn't think that fans are going to give it a fair shot. And, I'm sorry that it feels that way, but at the same time, we have to keep in mind it's a $500,000 movie.
Yeah.
And it's just hard. It's hard for us to believe that the story is going to be something good, because we've had plenty of recycled scripts as Hellraiser sequels over the years, and it just seems like this one's going to be another one. So who knows? But again, I'll probably give it a chance. I'm probably going to give it a chance because I'm kind of a big Hellraiser fan, and people like Max and Pyramid Gallery have kept the fandom alive with their, adding to the mythology of it over the years, and having websites that talk about Le Marchand and the boxes. And so it's great that fans are keeping this alive, even if the owners of the franchise are just keeping it on life support,
Yeah.
So many different fans out there, that appreciate the movies at many levels. I mean, you've got the casual viewer who just likes horror movies, that and will watch anything that comes out, and then you got the diehard fan that's been invested since the beginning. You've got, there's a strata of fans that that are out there that any kind of movie is going to appeal to, But I don't think it's a problem to have fans that are kind of irritated by where the franchise has gone over the years,
Yeah. So. Because, if they listen to the fans, these movies ultimately are for the fans who have stuck with the franchise. I mean, I'm sure there's people who've never seen a Hellraiser movie that will probably see Judgment, but I'm thinking that they're going to be a very small percentage of people who are actually going to watch this movie, because there's going to be a lot of them that are going to be people who have already seen like all the other 9 Hellraiser films. And so it would be smart if they don't have to exclusively cater to the fans of the franchise, but it would be smart to make something that will not, I don't want to say insult them, but that will not disappoint them too much, at least for a movie of this budget. But
what's really strange is that I've actually met fans out there who haven't even seen the first 2 movies at all. Their introduction to Hellraiser, things they've seen on Netflix. They've started. So I mean. Wow. That's what I'm saying. There's so many different types of fans out there, and maybe there's, I'm saying they really like the movie they first saw was, maybe it was Bloodline, or maybe it was, what's the one with the detective?
That's 5, Inferno. Inferno, yeah.
Inferno, so I've heard that was their introduction to Hellraiser, which is very odd for me, but it's realistic though,
Yeah. Well, that's true. That was 2000, so it's hard to fathom that was 16 years ago.
Is that crazy?
That's right. Yeah, it is crazy. Wow, Jesus. Well, the thing is, for example, there's been Star Trek and Star Wars people. Their fans, their community are really like creative and active and very dedicated to the fandom. But then again, for example, Star Wars has a whole expanded universe that was created over the years. Star Trek also has a lot of like fandom out there, and people will actually make these amazing looking fan films for these franchises. And it's amazing that Star Trek, for example, has had fan films that had the actor who played Chekhov, the actress who played Uhura, Nichelle Nichols, in a fan film. They've had Tony Todd in one of those. So sometimes they're better than the ones that we end up seeing on the theater. But I wish someone would do that for Hellraiser. Any creative filmmakers out there, hey, want to make a Hellraiser fan film? Yeah, you can probably kickstart this.
Yeah, and there have been some really interesting creations over the years. From the Hellraiser podcast that was out a few years back. They did a radio drama, which I thought was superb. Our friend Johnny Q did a fan film for Hellraiser meets the Prophecy movies.
And he did a sequel to Hellraiser Deader.
Deader, right. Yeah,
Winter's Lament, I think. It also involved part of the Prophecy movies in there as well. So he always wanted to mix those 2 franchises together. So they're on YouTube. If you guys want to go out there and look up for that, look for Winter's Lament and Hellraiser Prophecy. But they're really low budget, but they're fun. Okay.
Well, and actually, when you go and read the Scarlet Gospels, it's not that far off. You've got Lucifer and angels and demons and stuff.
Mm-hmm. I think would be really cool because I know you guys have handled a number of the failed scripts, that went to Hollywood and to the Weinsteins. It'd be cool to put some focus on some of the fan expressions that have been on YouTube, the really good ones. There's not many of them, but I mean, besides Johnny's work, there's been a few small videos that I think have been really cool that have come out over the years.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, I've recently got an email from a filmmaker who did one of the first Hellraiser fan films. I don't want to say his name right now because I'm gonna start a rumor here. That might be a little risky, but he sent me a message saying that his fan film was due for release soon in America as part of the Scarlet Box set over there. And that made me wonder if the Arrow box set is going to eventually be published in America. So here's a rumor that I'm starting right now based on this email that I received. He sent me this email because a Japanese company who are releasing Hellraiser in Japan are also interested in putting his fan film in it for their release.
Oh, cool.
So, he said he will let me know more about this from the Japanese company to see how it goes. But I was definitely intrigued when he said that the Scarlet Box might be released in America. So
The Scarlet Box set, was that the one that had all the I'm trying to remember. It had all the extra stuff inside, like the
yes, it had Leviathan. The illustrations. Yeah, it was like a 4-disc set, I think, and it had a bunch of like extras in there. It had like a copy of Leviathan, the documentary, and it had so much stuff, like postcards. I think.
Is it Hellraiser 1, 2, and 3?
I think that was it, right? I think it was.
Doesn't have Bloodline in it.
And there were 4K restorations, I think, or 2K.
It's a really neat box set. I've had many fans bring it up to our table at the Pyramid Gallery tables at conventions, and I've looked over the artwork. It's just really cool stuff.
Yeah, it's just too bad it's locked to Region B in Blu-ray, which is the UK. So,
right.
But anyway, that was my rumor starter thing there, that the Scarlet Box may eventually come to America.
Well, that would be great if it does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Le Marchand showed up as a Weebly Deebly on just recently, right? I think that we were seeing images of that on Facebook. That's a clay figure?
Yeah, that was done by Chastine Edwards, who she has a Facebook page called Ground Up Art, but she also has a Tumblr account under Weebly Deeblies that she makes all these different little great clay figurines. I first met her in Texas a couple years ago, and she bought a box from us, and then I saw her again in Chicago, and she presented a Pinhead Weebly Deeply to Doug Bradley, and he was just tickled by it because of the expression on its face and everything. So they get this kind of cutesy, almost Cabbage Patch look, but she does, like Candyman and Freddy Krueger, the whole list of creatures. I think she just put up just yesterday what was it? I think it was a Shakespeare influenced one for Midsummer's Night's Dream, Puck.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that the one with the donkey head?
It looks like a cherub to me. It looks almost like a kind of a Panish cherub. If you go to her page, weeblydeeblies.tumblr.com, you can see the photos. But all the photos of the Philip Le Marchand, after she gave the Weebly Deeply to Doug Bradley, I was like, oh, yeah, we have to do one for Philip Le Marchand. So, yeah, it was a commission we did, and he's going to be our official little mascot now on our table. And I took a few photos. We're going to kind of take him on the road with us as a good luck charm, I guess.
Yeah, I remember your website has this little image that you use as kind of like an ending for the pages, where you had something you copied from the Hellraiser comics once.
Yeah.
It was like a tiny automaton in the shape of Le Marchand.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so that kind of reminded me of this Weebly Deebly. And it's so detailed. It's got like the Elysium configuration on his desk, and it's really, really nice.
And he's in the pose from that painting from Books of the Damned, right?
Yeah, with the wicked arched eyebrow, right?
Yeah. That looks really fun. You posted about a story that apparently is available to read on your page, on your Facebook page. It was A Whisper Beneath the Trees. So this is a Hellraiser fan fiction, right?
Yes. Yeah, okay. This was an accompaniment to Mark Buckle's research into the I'm gonna slaughter the name. It's the suicide forest in Japan at the foot of the Mount Fuji. It's the I think it's Eiko Hirga. I can't pronounce it.
Akibara or something. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a story about the suicide forest and a number of boxes that are linked to a strange group that is reproducing Philip Le Marchand's work. But yeah, that was the story that was kind of like a hidden Easter egg within the research for that box. It's really interesting.
That seems like a great setting for Hellraiser story.
Yeah, it really is. We're looking. I've had one of a diehard fan who's been wanting for me to reproduce that box, and so we're working on getting the artwork from Mark. It's because I think he produced this probably 3 or 4 years ago. Produced research for Pyramid Gallery.
Wonderful. It looks great. I saw that there were some panels illustrating the story, so I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I'll definitely take a look at it.
Awesome.
And also, you mentioned that Chris Blair, who's been cosplaying as Pinhead in several conventions, he's always at your table, being Pinhead and showing your box to people. He's going to be part of a cosplay contest, the Dark History and Horror event.
Yeah, exactly. It's held on, let me see here, October 22nd. It'll be a Saturday, but he'll be running his cosplay contest. He does a makeup and effects contest at the Days of the Dead shows, pretty standard, and we co-sponsor him with that. But this is one of his excursions outside the Days of the Dead, and the Dark History and Horror Con is started off being based on serial killer lore and just the darker aspects of history, and it's kind of branching out more into the the horror convention scene now. So it's starting to grow a bit. So this takes place in Champaign, Illinois, October 21st through 23rd.
That sounds really fun. I hope our listeners out there get a chance to go there and dress up as a Hellraiser character or any other character they see fit.
So on to the Duels of Blood. So round 4 has finished up, and we're on to round 5.
Duels of Blood.
So these are obviously getting shorter as characters are getting eliminated. But in the Hellraiser bracket, we only had 2 left, of course. Butterball versus Julia, and I think we kind of had predicted how this was going to turn out. Butterball is a great character, but Julia beat him. So Julia's going to be going on has gone on to the next round.
I would just like to point out that on this round 4, we had a total of 5,687 votes, which it blows my mind because we don't really. I guess we do promote it here, and thanks to Pyramid Gallery as well. But I'm still amazed at the amount of votes that people will click on our brackets here. It's just insane.
Even when Clive Barker shared it, we didn't get nearly this many votes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I'm hoping it's because we're kind of, it's narrowing down, and people are getting more excited about it as far as, who the final bracket was. This final 4 is really interesting.
Yeah, it seems like the votes have been not diminishing, but they just get distributed by a smaller amount of characters. And Julia, no surprise here. She's a great character. I'm going to use a picture of her in the black dress that she was supposed to use at the end of Hellbound. She's the character that was supposed to keep the franchise moving forward, of course, but she wasn't interested, so they just stuck with Pinhead. I think that she'll do very well in the semifinals.
Yeah, I agree. And she may go on to take the whole tournament.
Yeah, that's kind of my feeling too. I mean, it looks like it might be down to her and Cabal, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Stranger things have happened. I thought Pinhead was going to win the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right. And then Butterball was the last Cenobite standing, which kind of mirrors his performance in the first movie as well.
Yeah.
He's the one guy who's not sent back with a box. He just gets the house falls on him.
In Hellbound, was he the last Cenobite to get killed? By Chenard? I can't remember.
No, I think, was that Cheddar, I think? No, wait, of course it was Pinhead. That's the last one.
Oh, but yes, Pinhead was the last one.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, right. So in the magical bracket, we've got Pio Pa versus Christopher Carrion, and this was very, very close. And they over the course of those 2 weeks, they went back and forth as far as who was ahead. But by the end, Christopher Carrion took it. So he's going on, and Pio Pa has been eliminated.
Wow. Carrion is from Aberrat, of course. He's the angsty, dangerous, mysterious villain. I feel sad that Pi the Mistiff couldn't take this one because Imagica is very dear to my heart. But, Aberrat will be very well represented in round 5.
Yeah. And in the Nightbreed bracket, we have Cabal versus Narcisse. And now I thought this would be a little closer because Narcisse, I think, honestly, is a more sort of beloved character. But he's not one of the main characters. Like I would argue that Cabal and Laurie are the main characters. But yeah, Cabal beat him by quite a bit.
It was a tough choice, but Cabal takes the day here. He is Baphomet's avatar after all, right?
Right.
Yep.
So,
and like Pinhead, he's kind of the symbol of the movie. It's hard to imagine that. I couldn't imagine that Pinhead wouldn't have won the Hellraiser bracket, but I could imagine that Cabal actually took it. So and he did. So.
Yeah, and Pelican got eliminated early, but I kind of wonder, like, if it had come down to the end, if Pelican would have done better later on.
That's a possibility. Narcisse, he has a longer role in the director's cut of Nightbreed, but here he stood his ground. I mean, he made it all the way to the quarterfinals, and there will be plenty of good Nightbreed characters to include in next year's Duels of Blood.
Yeah, for sure. And then we've got Candyman versus Harvey Swick in the last bracket, the one we called the Bloody bracket. So, actually, Harvey Swick took it by only 21 votes.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was that one was also very close, and not how I expected that to turn out at all.
Exactly.
Max, did you happen to meet Tony Todd in some of your conventions? Showing off the Le Marchand collection.
Yeah, we've done a few shows with him. One of the first shows I went out and did like a kind of a recon before I actually started bringing the gallery to conventions was at Monster Mania back in 2006. That had all the Cenobites and Ashley Lawrence. Yeah. And I think Gary Tunnicliffe, Peter Atkins were there as well. And anyway, I was on the elevator, and Tony Todd was on the elevator with us. So we kind of shyly stepped off because, I don't know whether to bother people outside of the convention or not, but there was a girl that was walking beside us, and as we exited, she's like, "I love your movies," and she's kind of squirming off too. But he stopped the elevator and stuck his head out, and he's like, "Which ones?" So it was kind of fun to see him, and he's been at, like I said, a few conventions that I've done.
That dynamic in conventions is really funny. It's kind of awkward because I remember at Texas Frightmare weekend riding in the elevator down with Angus Scrim. And
oh, cool.
And he's like, "Oh, how are you? How are you liking the convention?" I'm like, "Pretty good. I'm actually going to get in an hour-long line to go meet you."
Doug Bradley once mentioned a funny story that people were a particular person came up to him in a convention and said, "Hey, I love you as Pinhead, and also I love you as the guy in Phantasm." And he was like, "Well, that's not me. That's Angus Scrim." And he was like, "Are you sure?"
Are you sure? Let me go look up my IMDb page and find out.
That must have been a little awkward to confuse him with Angus Scrim.
All the best conventions are the ones where people are letting their hair down and partying with everybody. Yeah. I remember one of the Monster Manias. I'm forgetting his name. Cabal was at the piano.
Craig Sheffer?
Yeah, he was at the piano just, singing up with everybody. It was a big crowd
in the bar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was the 2012 New Jersey one, right?
Oh, was that? Yeah, it might have been that one. Yeah, exactly. That was fun.
Oh, I had to go to bed during, I missed a good part of that because I just couldn't stay up that late.
Well, I just went downstairs to get something validated. I think in order to get the breakfast, I had to get like a ticket validated, and so it was probably around midnight or so. I just went down real quick to do that, and that's what was going on. I was like, "Oh, how cool!"
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh man! So Candyman versus Harvey Swick. Harvey Swick takes it, and he goes on to the semifinals. I didn't expect this one to turn out this way because Candyman, but I'm glad that Harvey's fans are out there still looking out for their thief of always.
Yes.
And so as we go on to round 5, we're already kind of deep in it because it started on August 7th as we're recording this. Mm-hmm. And it looks like at this point, Julia is pretty far ahead of Christopher Carrion. So Julia versus Christopher Carrion is the first matchup. And the second matchup is Cabal versus Harvey Swick. And in that one, Cabal is also pretty far ahead of Harvey Swick.
Wow.
So, I mean, this is kind of going how I would predict, I think. Because we got movie characters versus novel characters. Real human actors versus in a drawing and a painting.
If this goes the way that I think it's going to go, it's going to come down to, like Max said, Cabal versus Julia.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, Aberrat is very popular, and The Thief of Always won against Candyman.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a fine book. I love The Thief of Always. It was like Clive Barker's first fiction written more for children. I would say children, but adults can read that book too. By the way, Max, remind me again, have you had a chance to read The Thief of Always yet?
Oh yeah. I actually, it's one of the first books I think I bought audio when I started doing even before I made the Pyramid Gallery online. I was making boxes for myself, and I remember listening to that while I made my first boxes.
Oh, that's great. That was actually The Thief of Always was the first Clive Barker book that I gave my now wife while we were still dating. I said, hey, here's this book I got you, and it's really good. So she really loved it. And I guess you don't really have to be that much into Clive Barker in general just to enjoy the book. It's just such a nice little fable.
Yeah.
So who knows if we might have Julia versus Harvey at the end.
Yeah. Well, and we're still just beginning. We're only 200 votes in, and if we get even more votes this time than we did last time, then it could go to any of them.
Yeah, I just voted, by the way. I voted for Julia and Harvey because I'm pulling for the underdog here. But I don't know. There's no way that Harvey's going to pull up because he's already 3 times less than Cabal. But who knows? Who knows?
Same with Christopher Carrion, too. He's having a hard time against Julia.
I might make myself a pep poster about the Duels of Blood and be like, vote for Harvey Swick.
There you go.
Harvey Swick needs your help.
Harvey Swick for president.
Oh man,
So
like
there
those political emails you get. If you just donate $10 could put a stop to Cabal.
The average donator gives us $27.
You're not comparing Cabal to Trump, are you?
No.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Oh man!
For starters, Cabal has much better hair.
And I don't think that Craig Sheffer would appreciate it.
No.
Although I don't know if someone's going to compare Julia to Hillary Clinton though, but I'm not touching that.
Oh wow! I can see a fan poster coming out. Get Trump in that. Get the runes carved into his face.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be weird. So hey, it's the final 4. After this, it's going to be the final showdown. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, that'll be great. It's been a fun event so far, and surprising actually. We all thought that Pinhead was just going to sweep through the whole thing, and he actually got eliminated fairly early on.
Yep,
that was really surprising.
Yeah,
and definitely something to repeat next year.
Okay, so for our next thing, I want to start out with a quote. Hitler hiles enthusiastically at his new ally. It is the demon Azazel, a.k.a. Pinhead, the leader of the Cenobites. So just to kind of give you an idea of what you're in for, this is a Hellraiser treatment from 2010, tentatively probably called Hellraiser Reboot Treatment, written by Christian E. Christensen and Jesper Nikolai Christensen.
First I thought that these two guys, Christian Christensen and Jesper Christensen, were brothers. But then I went to check their IMDb profiles, and I discovered that, first of all, they were both born in Denmark, I think. Mm-hmm. And I thought they could be brothers, but no, because I think they may not even be related, because one of them was born in July of 72, and the other was born in December of 72, which puts them at 5 months apart. Okay. So unless this was the longest twin childbirth in history, I don't think they can be brothers.
Wow. I guess they could be adopted, but...
Oh, yeah, that's true. My bad. But, so they've done stuff, for example, Christian Christensen is known for a 2011 movie called The Roommate, and Jasper is known for writing another movie in 2006 called Life Hits, and a 2013 feature called Catch the Dream. And they are not just writers, but directors and also production managers. So they're pretty experienced. Yeah,
I just thought their name was like a play on the theme of the of the treatment itself, because it gets very religious, at some points.
It is.
Oh yeah, especially Christian Christensen. It's like the Son of Christ from the Son of Christ.
Yeah, and it's a very, very strange premise, and it sort of reads like in the 90s there were was it the Ninth Seal and what's that Arnold Schwarzenegger movie where he shoots the devil with a rocket launcher?
End of Days,
and there's the Advocate, right? There was a lot of there were a lot of these kind of we gotta stop this and this and this from happening, or else the Antichrist is going to come back and it'll be the end of the world. And this is kind of one of those movies. It seems like.
I have a synopsis. I came up with a synopsis for this movie, and I'm thinking I'm going to read it, and you guys may tell me what you think of it. So, after a prologue showing Hitler opening the Hellraiser box given to him by a messenger and disappearing in his bunker in 1945 Berlin, we jump to present-day New York, where a nurse called Natalie is undergoing a tough divorce, and to make matters worse, she got into a car crash that will result in her son getting killed. When Hitler's messenger, still alive, opens the box, a blind derelict shows up at Natalie's table after an argument with her husband and gives her the box. Unknown to her, every time she breaks a commandment, she's unlocking a ritual that will allow the Cenobites to enter our world as they please. Also, her child might come back to life, but Hitler's heart will end up corrupting his risen form. So that's my synopsis for this movie.
Yeah, that's a good way to start this off.
Yeah.
And there's similarities to the previous treatment that we talked about in the discussion of round 3 of the Duels of Blood. For example, this is also a female lead. She's also a nurse. She also has a dead son. There's also a secret society in the previous one. There were people with a tattoo on their face, and this one they're called the Seraphins. And also, this is another movie where a mother tries to get her dead child back. Yeah. And both open in a war scenario. So, in the previous one opened up in World War I with Elliot Spencer on the battlefield, but this one opens in World War II in 1945 Berlin. So there's a lot of similarities here, and I'm wondering if the Weinsteins told the guys to read the previous treatment and then work upon that, or if it was just a terrible coincidence.
That's an interesting thought. That's totally possible, because there's so many similarities.
Yeah.
I would love to see a movie that kind of incorporated, the occult aspects of the SS. I think it fits perfectly with the Hellraiser world, but
it definitely could, but not necessarily in this one. But
no, not at all. Because so it started off with a little bit of a promise for me, but I think it started losing its ground when it started introducing the characters in the modern day, and I don't know. It's a strange. I'm not opposed to the script by itself outside of the Hellraiser franchise. I think it would be an all right movie if it was done right. I've got some problems, theologically. Maybe it's not even that sound as far as using, the Ten Commandments versus. I don't know. It's just I think it's got kind of a warped view of. But I mean, it's a movie, so people play around with those things.
I think I understand what you're talking about. It's like a warped view of how someone would break a commandment just by, like flipping a switch. And when it should be thoughts, not words. Or it's like thinking about the commandments as just following the letter of the law instead of
the spirit of the law.
The spirit of the law, right? Yeah. Exactly. So. So in the opening scene, there's a funny bit with Hitler where the messenger that brings him the box, and Hitler is so frustrated because he opens the box but nothing happens that he stabs the messenger, and then blood splashes onto the box and the box starts opening up a little bit. So he realizes that blood will make the box open. So immediately he shoots everybody in the bunker that's there with him. He shoots soldiers, he shoots his wife, he even shoots a poor dog that's there.
And probably Pinhead would have been like, we didn't really need the dog blood. That's not part of the deal.
Yeah.
I guess all lives matter.
Yeah. That's right. So this is definitely the most detailed treatment that we've had a chance to look at so far, because this runs at 44 pages.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a shock. I had put off reading this until right before the podcast.
I know. I sent you a message warning. Hey, this is 44 pages. You might want to get started.
When I read that, I'm like, oh man.
The only thing that I thought was that the opening is kind of slow. The first act is pretty slow. There's a lot of backstory to not just the box, because that's kind of a short prologue, but the backstory for our female lead, Natalie, is really long. And there's all this backstory, and there's like, I'm not complaining, but it's just that sometimes too much backstory can also make you wonder where's this movie going. It just seems like a drama at first, where this nurse, and she has terrible parents, or at least very strict parents, very religious parents. She has
pretty terrible. Yeah, I'd admit they're terrible.
Yeah.
And she's going through a divorce, but her husband doesn't want to get a divorce, and so it kind of bums you out a little bit. And then finally, when the whole introduction of the Hellraiser elements start, it's a little jarring, especially in the time when, so the messenger is still alive. Hitler's messenger was still alive. He had like a little secret chamber full of Nazi regalia, and he takes out the box, and he doesn't say it, but it's almost like he should say, "It's time." And then he just puts the box on the table and kills himself and lets the blood fall on the box. And so this is going to trigger the whole appearance of the Hellraiser elements, and of course the box disappears.
And that was in New Orleans, where this Nazi was. So
right.
So this derelict, the blind derelict, grabbed the box and maybe hitchhiked. I don't know, all the way from New Orleans to New York.
Turned into a dragon and flew to New York.
Yeah, maybe.
And so, and this is where they introduce the secret society called the Seraphins, who are these they're like police detectives, but they follow every single appearance of the boxes of Le Marchand. So, but then one day Natalie's having an argument with her husband, and all of a sudden we see this blind derelict slowly walk up to a window in front of her and her husband, and then after the argument is done, her husband gets up to walk away, and she turns around to do something. When she turns back, the guy's sitting right in front of her at the table, and he just puts the box down. And that's where the Hellraiser elements start. I thought that moment was a little too jarring. I would have liked to see this open up in a different way.
Well, and despite all of the backstory that you were talking about for this character, there's no discernible reason why she got picked to open the box. I mean, maybe because of her son, but I mean, there are other people that, in Hellraiser history, there are other people that clearly, felt this need to do something like that, and she's not really one of them.
Sure. I may have read it wrong, but I think at the end of the script it says something about that there were two people that needed to open the box, one pure and one of darkness or whatever. I can't remember exactly what it said, but so I always thought that she was supposed to be the pure side of the opening of the box.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably why they kind of show her as being this giving person, a nurse, and then it slowly shows her corruption because of her desire to bring her child back after he dies in a car crash.
Which doesn't, I mean, maybe it would work better with someone performing this role, but it's not believable in this treatment. The way she goes from being this caring nurse person to, I'm going to keep on doing this even though I see that it's causing people to die. Mm-hmm. I want to keep on breaking the commandments anyway.
And even after she gets the revelation that her son is basically the Antichrist, he's going to be possessed with the heart of Adolf Hitler,
Yeah.
And she still wants to do it because she misses her son, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
and we didn't talk about that in the opening. Pinhead, when Pinhead appears to Hitler, Hitler's like, "Yay, I have a friend," or whatever, and Pinhead reaches into his ribcage and pulls his heart out, and then it's like, "Okay, I got what I need, and I'm out of here."
Right.
This reminds me of this wacky movie that I saw. It's totally played straight, but it's a black and white movie called The Mad Men of Mandoras, also known as They Saved Hitler's Brain, where it's a movie where Hitler's head has been preserved, and so you see the actor's face is inside like a little jar, like a Futurama jar, and he's just there, like the face of the Fuhrer with his little mustache, and he's stuck in this tank, and they pick him up, and they're going to bring back the Fuhrer, and it's just such a horrible movie. But yeah, Mad Men of Mandoras.
Yeah.
But so when she gets the box, she looks at the box and sees like a little signature at the bottom, and then it says 1846 Le Marchand, made in China. No, I'm just joking about that last one. But then she turns on her laptop and goes to Google Le Marchand's name, and it turns out a few hits, saying, oh, he was French, he's dead. But one of the links leads to a forum, which in turn leads her to an antique shop in New York specializing in Le Marchand objects.
Yeah.
And it's like, they don't say it, but the first thing that came to my mind was, hey, it's Pyramid Gallery. Except the guy isn't called Max, the guy there is called Charlie. So he's the guy who's going to tell her all about Le Marchand.
I think I like Max better than Charlie.
Yeah, that's true. So, the funny thing is they say the box is 1846, but Le Marchand died in 1840. So he made this one after spending 6 years in hell.
Yeah.
And it would be his magnum opus.
Yeah, it's his magnum opus. It's like the ultimate puzzle box.
Mm-hmm. So the whole thing about her son was that once this box was opened, the Cenobites would rise to the earth, and together with the Dark Messiah, the demon Azazel or Azazel will rule the world. And the Dark Messiah had to be someone given to the demon Azazel through sin. And somehow I failed to see how this happens with Jonah, Natalie's son, because he dies in a car crash. Arguably, that's caused by the derelict crossing the road in front of her when she's driving.
Yeah.
So that might have something to do with it. So he kind of forced her into a car crash, and then, the kid died because he didn't have the seatbelt buckled properly or something. But so they would need someone to become the Dark Messiah, which is going to be Jonah. And they would be reborn and rule the earth. And they needed this because God gave the earth to mankind, so a demon could never take control of the earth. He had to govern by proxy. And that's why they would use this risen child to become the Dark Messiah. And another thing that Max mentioned was that the box would have to be opened by two humans, the darkest and the purest. Again, which is kind of fuzzy, who's the darkest, who's the purest. I'm guessing the purest is the kid. And, obviously the darkest is Natalie, who out through this whole thing, she kind of, every time she breaks a commandment, so to say, the box opens a little bit, whether it's on the desk or it's on her bag or whatever. And so when she says a lie, it opens up. When she falls a little bit in love with some guy in the hospital whose wife is in a coma, the box opens a little bit. There's another commandment, honor thy mother and thy father. And there's an argument that she has with her parents. The box opens up another bit. Finally, thou shalt not kill, which is a big fail here because she didn't kill her son.
Yeah.
But, when her son dies, the box opens a little bit, and so on and so forth. There's even a really strangely written scene where she is arrested and one of the detectives is power tripping in the interrogation room, and he says to her, in this room, I am God. So I want you to say it. You're God. And he forces her to say it. And then, of course, the box opens a little bit because thou shalt not have other gods over me. That's another one.
Yeah.
And finally, and then taking the Lord's name in vain, that happens.
I wanted to see what they did for thou shalt not or covet thy neighbor's ass.
Yeah.
She's like, hey neighbor, that's a great donkey you got in your backyard.
Yeah.
Maybe she lives next to the Kardashians or something. But,
right.
But no, what was the scene that she wanted to test if by stealing? She was going to test and see if this was true. So she goes into a convenience store and steals a candy bar, I think, or something.
Yeah, and the store owner goes nuts.
He's a Korean, and it's just such a stereotype here. He says something like, I forgot the exact quote, but it's like...
Yeah, it's awful.
It's awful. It's like, you steal, bitch. I call police or something, and it's just so, like, 12 candles or whatever.
Yeah.
But...
and so strange how he judges if somebody's stealing or not. He doesn't wait for them to go out the door. He's got a line painted on the floor, and if they step over that line, they're stealing from him. So it gives him a right to pull out a gun or whatever, you know?
A shotgun, no less.
Yeah,
but then the Cenobites appear, and every time this happens, every time she breaks one of these commandments and the box opens a little bit, Cenobites appear, and they kill the person that she was interacting with.
So she never left the store, but because she crossed this store owner's line that he painted on the floor, the Cenobites are like, "Yep, good enough for us."
Yes. So they show up, and there's a really good moment where the Cenobite just kind of, the Korean owner goes like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And then one of the Cenobites turns over to him and whispers something in his ear, and he goes like, "Ah!" And then he just turns the gun on himself and shoots himself.
Yeah.
And I thought that was cool that a Cenobite could, tell something so horrible that it would make someone kill themselves. It reminded me a little bit of Hannibal Lecter.
Right.
In Silence of the Lambs, he says something to his cell neighbor and overnight, and he makes him kill himself. Arguably that guy was crazy, but so that's interesting exercise of power just by words.
Right.
So ultimately, the box would be open, and then Azazel would rule the world. But Charlie's trying to help Natalie escape the Seraphins, because the Seraphins, even though they're a secret society that is trying to prevent hell on Earth, they're not very nice. They're not very nice. They kill people. There's crazy nuns belong to this order.
Yeah, there's an inexplicable scene where right after she says, "I'm not giving you the box," this nun shows up in her house and starts trying to kill her with a knife. Like, okay, first of all, you're a nun. Why are you doing that? And second, how are you going to find the box by murdering this lady that hid it somewhere?
That's right. It's just so weird. And then another one of these Seraphins, he acts like a detective, but then he kills some police officers in the car for no reason. Yeah. Just because, he wants to take Natalie away from them. He had the paperwork to take her with him. But ultimately, he just, I don't know, he kills like 2 police officers with blades that come out of his sleeves, which is super cheesy. But, okay. So they take her box and they want to destroy it. So Charlie and Natalie follow them to this place where the Seraphins are going to destroy the box, and they have like this molten metal thing, and they're going to throw the box into it. And so, because Natalie thinks that the box can bring her son back, of course her son is dead, but for some reason they keep thinking, oh, he's going to be back and everything's going to be okay. But so she breaks the last commandment. So she says she just curses at God, and just ultimately the last blasphemy act that makes the box finally open, and then Azazel shows up, and there's molten metal everywhere, and he's like, finally. And then it just gets really weird because her son appears as well in a risen form, little Jonah. Yeah. And
Pinhead comes and he's like, "Man, I've been keeping this heart in like a cooler for 45 or for 60 years now. I finally have somebody, so I'm gonna it's time to cram this heart into this toddler." Yeah,
70 years. So they've mentioned this. They set up a few things along the way in the story, like when she's interacting with her parents, there's like a giant dog that kind of smells a sinner. He sniffs a sinner.
Yeah.
And they keep complaining to her that her son was never baptized and all that stuff. So I can
it's one
tell
of
that
those
they were
movie
setting...
tropes where something has to get mentioned 3 times.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be important at the end. So for some reason, right before this gateway opens and the demons take over the earth and little Jonah becomes the reincarnation of Hitler, the Dark Messiah. Here's how she defeats them, and I'm going to spoil it because
it's not honestly, a movie, so it's okay.
It's not a movie. Yeah. But there's a time Yeah, there's a moment where they go through a church, and apparently she must have taken a little bottle of holy water because she just decides to hold on to her son, and she embraces him. And just before everything, happens, she just, pours the bottle of holy water onto her son and starts reciting the baptismal rites or whatever. And so that completely defeats the Cenobites, the demon Azazel or Pinhead or whatever. There's a line here where he says, "Even Satan is envious of me, and God is cursing in his throne." And I'm like, you're just a demon. So if there's a Satan, why wouldn't Satan be the one who's going to take over the earth? But that's just this is a treatment. So, but yeah, that's how she defeats Pinhead. She baptizes her son, and everything is sanctified, and everything is Cenobite's plans go down the drain, and that's it.
Yeah.
So, don't the the horde of Cenobites destroy Azazel or whatever? I can't remember how he gets killed.
Yeah. It's something like he's mad and he wants to fight her, but she beat him fair and square, so he can't do that. Or
yeah, Azazel gets furious, and then he says something worthy of Freddy Krueger. He's like, "You cheated me, bitch."
Yeah, that's Frank's line.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Yeah, really. So, but so the Cenobites won't obey him anymore. They just stare at him, and, he gets dragged back to hell with barbed wire, and he says, "You're still a sinner. I'll see you in hell." And there's a line that I think is pretty good, actually. Natalie turns to Pinhead and says, "That's the good thing about my God. He forgives." And that's, the gates close, and that's it. It's and by the way, just in case you guys were thinking about the Seraphins, they've all committed mass suicide in some self-burning, insane ritual.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, this movie is like, all right, everybody dies, that's it.
Well, because in reality, right, the molten metal just killed them all. But because every death has to appear like a suicide, so that's how the public treated it.
Yeah.
Well, it was also the theme of the movie, or the script was the fact that once the box was opening, that the storm was coming, and it was causing mass suicides across the country, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. In addition to the Cenobites killing people and making it look like suicide.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Except for the police officer who forced her to say that he was God in that room. The Cenobites appear, and they bring along some nails and a upside-down cross. I wonder how they were going to explain that one.
Yeah. He obviously killed himself. Look at that.
Stabbed himself in the back 18 times. Yeah. Oh, well. But, and so in the end, they open it up for another sequel where they have the blind man appears, and somehow he kneels and picks something up. It's the puzzle box, and he just goes away. The end.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is the ultimate puzzle box because it was made in hell, and when it opens a gateway to hell, it stays open forever.
It seems like at least they got a little more out of their money that they paid for when they had this written because, one, it's bigger. Two, it's a little better than the other ones. It's not called The Box is Back.
Right.
So who knows? It would depend on the execution, but definitely there are a few things here that I think are not Hellraiser, which is the whole thing with the commandments and Pinhead being the demon Azazel, and this whole thing about
when Pinhead is described, he's described as this handsome and charming man, and then it says in parentheses Pinhead, and it's like, well, wait, he's not charming. I mean, he says cool lines and stuff, but he's sort of deadpan and scary. He's not He's not charming. He's not good looking. He's all scarred. Mm-hmm. So it seems like there are places here and there where it feels like Hellraiser was shoehorned in, kind of like Hellworld was that.
Oh yeah. If you just take away the word Cenobites and Pinhead, this could just be a demon trying to come into the world, or if you just replace Azazel with Satan. This would just be like a demonic possession kind of thing with Hitler and stuff.
You could take the puzzle box out completely, and it wouldn't even really matter.
Right, I agree.
Yeah, because then she would just break commandments, and these things would happen. Yep. So I don't know.
2010. It's been 6 years since this was written, so I don't think this is going to happen. But if they do make a Hellraiser reboot, I really hope that they... Look, I understand the need for reinvention, okay? I understand if they change a few things here and there. I don't want to see a repeat of the first movie with Frank and Larry and Julia and Kirsty. But at the same time, come up with something that's going to be, come up with something that's going to be original, but kind of true to the mythology that exists, at least in the novellas and the Scarlet Gospels. I know this is a movie. It's not the same universe as the novellas. It's not the same universe as the comic books that were released by Boom Comics. But
it's not even the same universe as Hellraiser 1 and 2.
Yeah. But just, I don't know. I feel like every time they reboot a horror franchise, it doesn't really go very far. Like they rebooted Nightmare on Elm Street. There was only one movie made. It's been years. They rebooted Friday the 13th. Allegedly, there's one movie that's in pre-production now. That's going to be another reboot of Friday the 13th. It's not even going to be a sequel.
Oh,
although
really?
Arguably all the movies are about the same thing. But there's Halloween. They just had that 1 and 2 made by Rob Zombie and then nothing. So I know that Mustafa Akkad died in the meantime, but still I don't know if there's any direction for that franchise at the moment. So every time they tried bringing it back, they made one movie, everybody thought it was or terrible or whatever, and then that's it. So I don't know if bringing Hellraiser back would be able to relaunch the franchise. Who knows? I mean, the Hellraiser community is certainly very, very in love with the franchise. So if you treat them right, they will chant the praises up to, every single website out there, blog or whatever is going to have people talking about how awesome the movie was.
And they're forgiving, too. I mean, there are even people out there that like Hellraiser Revelations.
Yeah. So, who knows?
Yeah, there's, like I said, there's all kinds of different fans, and the younger fans, especially if they're not introduced to the first two movies at all, and they're seeing these other movies, that's their only concept for it. And if they like them for their own reasons, I mean, but, yeah. Now, for me, it's like the first two movies are perfect the way they are. I don't understand the need for a reboot. I mean, I believe in good movies existing and continue to exist, and are introduced. It's like A Clockwork Orange is a perfect example. Who's going to try to remake A Clockwork Orange?
Yeah, and why?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's like, and so A Clockwork Orange is going to be one of those films that everybody's going to eventually see because it's on its own merit. And you're either going to love it or hate it. And I've got plenty of people I know that don't like it, but it's definitely its own thing. And that's how I kind of view Clive Barker's work with Hellraiser and also his other films that he's done. I don't see the need to reboot or
it would be weird, and I think that also, they talk about rebooting like it's some kind of thing that's going to save the franchise, but every single sequel since number 4 has been a reboot. I mean, because they just totally ignore the movies that came before them, and they're not, that they don't help, they don't really do anything for the franchise.
Except for Hellseeker, brought back Kirsty.
Right, yeah. It's sort of incidentally, but...
Yeah, initially it wasn't even supposed to be that Kirsty in the script. So.
It was supposed to be someone with the same name, which would have been just even worse than the movie actually came out.
I like to look at the future, and I like to look at stuff that, okay, I've seen this, I'm done with it. Now I want to see something different, something original. So, I would love to see stuff like Scarlet Gospels get turned into a movie. I would like to see stuff like more Books of Blood stories be turned into movies. I know that they're desperately trying to make it work over at Seraphin. They have a bunch of like treatments and scripts for like other Books of Blood stories, but it's just hard because nowadays it's really difficult to find the financing for this kind of project. Yeah. Because, this isn't auteur cinema. This is... Let's find a producer who's willing to give us money, and then let's promise him that we're going to, double his money or give him a good return on his investment. Yeah. And sometimes movies, especially movies with stories that need to take risks, producers don't want to put their money in that because it's understandable. I mean, they don't want to throw their money away, right? So that's why nowadays all these like intellectual properties, all these IPs are like, oh, let's option this book because it's 50 Shades of Grey or whatever, and everybody likes this now. Let's make a movie about this. So it's become very pop culture-y, like the movies that are coming out, and you get movies made from YouTube short films, like that Lights Out one that's being done by Blumhouse Studios, I think. The one where you turn off the light and you see this silhouette of a woman, a ghost.
Oh, that was based on that YouTube video?
I think there was a short that I remember.
I remember seeing the YouTube video. Yeah, wow.
So I'm guessing at least if it's not based on it, it's inspired by it. And,
And then you got this whole new format of like Netflix and like the series like Stranger Things and things. I think that's maybe the whole movie format is definitely changing at this point as far as what people, how people can tell stories. And
definitely network television is going to have to rethink the way that it works.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of good stuff about that Stranger Things. And for example, there's now a Marvel film that's going to come out on Netflix. It's going to be Luke Cage. Mm-hmm. So Luke Cage was that character that hung around with Iron Fist. I don't know. I used to read a lot of Marvel comics.
Yeah, and Luke Cage is in one of the series on one of the Marvel Netflix series.
Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So they're making a movie for Netflix based on Luke Cage. So
that's cool.
That's going to be interesting. Yeah.
No, I think I don't know if you guys have seen Daredevil yet, but I think it's probably one of the only really. I think it honored the Marvel character more than anything that's ever been put out.
It's amazing. I just watched the whole. I just re-upped Netflix just so I could watch season 2 of that.
No, excellent. I don't have Netflix, but yeah, go ahead.
Definitely check out Stranger Things. It's something else. It's like a big homage to a lot of the 80s movies like E.T. and I'm trying to think what else. It's just kind of based around these kids who played Dungeons and Dragons, and
that's cool.
It's kind of it's a throwback. It's like 1980. I don't know if it's 83 or what time it takes place, something like that. But so it's really shot well. The acting's all great. It's a really good flick.
What I saw last time I went to the theater was, and I know we're going off topic, but I saw the trailer for the next Assassin's Creed film, and I know that you're kind of a fan of the game series, right, Max?
Yeah, I kind of got into it because I do research for different stories I put on Pyramid Gallery, and a lot of the franchise takes place during the same time period that Philippe Le Marchand existed during the 18th century. So there's one that takes place in Paris, another one takes place in London, and they're just fun environments to walk around in. I mean, there's a lot of killing and everything else and intrigue that goes on in the series, but they're interesting just as far as the environments that you're in.
Nice. The trailer I saw has Michael Fassbender in it, and it started weird because it starts in present day, and then it's this guy who's, maybe I shouldn't spoil it, but it's just the trailer. It's just what's in the trailer. It's Michael Fassbender is a death row inmate in present time. And then after they flip the switch, he wakes up in a facility, and they go like, we need to go back into your ancestral memories and stuff. And that's when it goes into the whole, Florence or whatever, Rome or whatever. And we see the character of Fassbender's ancestor, like, going on adventures or something. So interesting. I'm intrigued in that because I don't know much about that series. So it might be a cool thing for me to go in and watch that movie.
Yeah, there's so many different games in the series. It'd be hard to think of them being able to pour it all into one movie. Maybe that's the point. Maybe they want to do a series of movies. But it's definitely an interesting concept. When you play any of the games, you kind of get introduced to this real life versus being put back into your memories. Your genetic code and everything as far as your ancestors. So it's kind of cool.
Maybe one day, if it's true that there's a guy out there that owns the rights to the Hellraiser TV series, and I think his name is Larry Coupin, he still held on to that. He held on to that from the Hellraiser 3 times. So there's literary rights for Hellraiser belong to Clive Barker as well as the comic book rights. TV rights belong to Larry Coupin, I think, and then the cinematic rights belong to the Weinstein Company. And so It would be nice if in the future someone came up with a Hellraiser TV series for like Netflix. But again, it's just me being...
Yeah, if they came to Clive Barker and said, hey, let's make this together. And they don't need the Weinstein Company at all. I mean, that would be amazing.
Yeah. Every few years they bring back something like that. Like I think the last time was like 2012, and there was even like
that remote control with the push pins in it, and they're like, oh, that was the worst promotional image ever.
I know. Yeah, that would have been interesting, but who knows what they were writing at the time? I heard something about a millionaire, and he would, have like a website, and then people would solve the box, and I don't know. It was just weird. I don't remember that very well, but it was just a weird story. So I was like, maybe it's best if that didn't happen. But hey, for Netflix, who knows? If they got the right people, that would be amazing. So I'm still a big Hellraiser fan, even though I'm a disappointed Hellraiser fan. I'm still a major Hellraiser fan. So I mean, that's why we got Max from the Pyramid Gallery. So what do you got going on now? And what?
I'm currently preparing for some the fall season of conventions. I've got a convention coming up September 2nd through 4th in Louisville, Kentucky. It's the Days of the Dead horror convention. It's going to have all four of the Cenobites, Doug Bradley, Barbie Wilde, Nicholas Vince, and Simon Bamford. It's also going to have Imogen Borman, who played Tiffany in Hellraiser 2. And so that's going to be a good show. And then let me see. I've got... Spooky Empire just today also announced all four Cenobites are going to be at it.
All right.
So that's cool. Show's growing. Imogen Borman also is going to be in Spooky Empire in Orlando, Florida. That's October 7th through 9th. And
it's great seeing all these actors, get invited to conventions because they always have a great time. They always get together. The fans get to see them and have their autograph and take pictures with them. It's just such a fun time for everyone.
Oh yeah. So that's what I'm currently preparing for. Also, that you mentioned earlier, the Dark History Horror Convention. That's I think that's October
22nd.
22nd. Yeah, it's 22nd. It's a Saturday, so I think it's 21st through 23rd. But that's just an interesting convention because it's plays up on the whole era, talking about true crime kind of. It's got kind of that background, so it's interesting combination of horror and true crime. So it's going to be a really interesting show.
That's wonderful. So also I would tell people to go to your website and your Facebook page. The latest spotlight you did was for the Ancient French Box of Eternity, designed by Anna Lovat. So that's always a beautiful. That's one of the most beautiful boxes you have on your website right now.
Thank you. Yeah, no, we were really blessed to have Vanna work with us, and the designs for that are just incredible. It's probably one of the most intricate boxes that we sell, and just the heart motif and everything about it, all the French script and everything. We're really proud to have that as part of our
fantastic
presentation.
And keep an eye out for the little weebly deebly Philippe Lemarchand that will be traveling with the Lemarchand collection.
Yeah, he actually anointed me. When I unwrapped him, she had actually put real ink inside his little inkwell. So when I took the table out that he's working on, it spilled on my thumb. So I like to think he anointed me with some ink so I can carry on.
That's great. That's great. You've been touched by the darkness. All right. Well, so it's always a great pleasure to have you here to talk to us about the Duels of Blood and what you're doing. You're one of the guys out there who's keeping Hellraiser alive. So thanks for being with us today. And
thank you so much for having me, man. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Just a quick note before we go. This is Ryan jumping back in here as I was editing. One thing I've noticed, you'll probably notice that my voice has a strange echo on it. So I have a new Skype recording software, and I think I did the settings wrong. So I think there's like a little feedback having to do with my headphones or something. So anyway, I'll make sure that doesn't happen next time. So if that was bugging you, I apologize. So coming up, there's new and upcoming on the website. We've got Jose did a review for Paul Kane's Sherlock Holmes and the Servants of Hell. So he's got a spoiler-free review there. So go take a look at that. And Jose also did a collector's corner on the 6-inch NECA figure of the Chatterer. So check that one, Chatterer 2, I believe. So check that one out also. We did quite a ways back now, but we did an audio commentary for Hellraiser, which was really fun. It was neat to do, arguably the best Clive Barker movie. Next week, look for our next episode, which is Paul Kane, talking about Sherlock Holmes and the Servants of Hell. So that's a lot of fun. That one is with Rob and Jose, and I wasn't able to make that one. So yeah, you'll get Rob and Jose talking with Paul Kane about his new book, and probably other stuff too, since he's kind of a Hellraiser. He is like the foremost Hellraiser expert. So it's always fun to have Paul Kane, and this is his second time on our show. And looking forward to that. You can find the show notes for this page and lots of Clive Barker news and features at www.clivebarkercast.com. Leave comments there or get them directly into the podcast by clicking the Send Voicemail tab on the right. Please follow us on Twitter at BarkerCast or at Occupy Midian. Like us on Facebook and join the Occupy Midian Facebook group. You can listen on the site or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, TuneIn, Pocket Cast, Google Play, and DoubleTwist. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Please take a couple of minutes to leave us a review on iTunes. It means the world to us and helps us spread the word about Clive Barker. The Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial fan site and podcast that is not affiliated with or under contract by Clive Barker or Seraphim Films. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans.
Thanks for listening.